Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP. But before I get started, I got to talk about yesterday's video. Some people in the comments got very upset over things I said because I said you're a crypto investor. You need to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario always. All the time. Be prepared for it. This way you can continue holding into the future. And I said, prepare yourself for Ripple possibly losing to the SEC. I didn't say that's gonna happen. I said it could happen. In fact, I believe Ripple has a great case against the SEC and they're going to pull out the win in the end. But people right away would say, you know yourself, this case is nothing but a sham. And I do believe that. But until that judge bangs that gavel and gives a judgment, we are all speculating still because everything right now is in her hands. And the reason I prepare you for the worst is so if something happens, you can shrug it off and continue holding. Because I want every single XRP holder to get financial freedom. Stop living paycheck to paycheck, dealing with inflation at the same time. I want you to have the life that you were meant to live. And how do you get there? Through financial freedom. And XRP will get you there one way or another. In today's video, I'm going to show you some great news around XRP, in fact. So let's take a look. SEC fines JP Morgan after accidentally deleting 47 million banking records. Now, we know that didn't happen by accident. That happened accidentally on purpose. So the U.S. SEC is fining JP Morgan Chase after the bank accidentally deleted 47 million banking records. Moreover, Reuters reported that the fine is worth $4 million after emails related to retail banking groups were terminated. $4 million. You realize that's pocket change to JP Morgan. So they get another pass. But think about if this happened at a bank that was tied to crypto. Most likely the fine would be $47 million and not $4 million. It's always a double standard at the SEC. Was there a subtle nod to Ripple at yesterday's press conference or just a coincidence? Jerome Powell says he's been a Grateful Dead fan for 50 years. Congressman Wiley Nickel responds, I found one universal truth. I like people who like the Grateful Dead. In Ripple's 2018 video about how they got started, Chris Larson says, we've always loved the Grateful Dead. Take a listen.
And then we also were lucky enough to be able to acquire the URL for Ripple, which is kind of a funny story. It came from Grateful Dead super fan. It's related to the song Ripple from the Grateful Dead. We always loved the Grateful Dead.
From public reporting that you were at the most recent Dead and Company show. How was the show? Did you like it?
Oh, it was terrific. What can I say? So it was great. I've been a Grateful Dead fan for 50 years. So.
Well, I've found one universal truth that I like people who like the Grateful Dead.
It's related to the song Ripple from the Grateful Dead. We always loved the Grateful Dead.
So that was probably Jerome Powell's coolest moment ever. But was it just a coincidence or was Jerome Powell giving us hints? Then it reminds me of this. So a red bear sock is Gary Gensler sending out a coded message. Things that make you go, And that's Gary Gensler standing there with the Grateful Dead bear on his socks. That was back in 2021. And that's what's great about being an XRP holder. You're always thinking and looking at the big picture and the little things, the little hints that maybe this does pertain to Ripple and XRP. Ripple plus CGI partners with FedNow. Now remember, Metal Blockchain was supposed to be the XRP killer. And I think it was Cypherion, which was also the XRP killer. But now we have the truth. And it looks like Ripple is going to be tied in with the Fed. Like most of us thought was going to happen anyway. And if it's not Ripple directly, it's always a partner of Ripple at the same time. Take a listen to this from CGI.
Hello, I'm Mark Perkins. I'm the Director and a Payments Product Offering Manager for CGI. CGI is proud and excited to be a part of the FedNow pilot program with our CGI All Payments FedNow module. CGI was founded 45 years ago and is now a company with a global footprint, including 80,000 employees worldwide. We differentiate ourselves through our client proximity model. In the United States alone, we have over 70 offices and delivery centers. This means that CGI will be a local partner and not just a vendor. CGI knows payments. Our history goes back to the very creation of the SWIFT network itself. We were also there to support the rollout of the UK's faster payment service over a decade ago, and more recently, European SEPA Instant Credit. Additionally, we've been supporting high and low value payments processing in the US, Europe, and Canada for decades. That journey continues with support for the FedNow service. CGI All Payments is a secure and proven cloud-enabled digital payments platform that will process your FedNow payments with speed and resiliency, all closely supported by your experienced partners at CGI. CGI All Payments provides 24/7 availability and was built upon ISO 20022 standards. The application is fully API-enabled, which allows for quick integration with your preferred client-facing and back-end applications, which helps reduce the integration efforts and costs. CGI All Payments will serve as your direct gateway to the FedNow service. Additionally, it provides capabilities to validate and process the immediate payments activity received through the FedNow network and from your customer origination channels, while utilizing interfaces with your core accounting, fraud, and sanctions.
So there you have it. Ripple tied with FedNow. And you know, right now it's domestic payments. Later it'll be cross-border payments. And most likely the Fed will also utilize XRP at some point in the future. Crypto firm Ripple gets in principle payments license in Singapore. Blockchain company Ripple said Thursday it received in principle regulatory approval to operate in Singapore in a rare moment of good news for the cryptocurrency industry globally, as it faces tightening policy back home in the United States. Ripple said that it was granted in principle approval of a major payment institution license from the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the country's central bank. The license will allow Ripple to offer regulated digital payments tokens, products, and services, and expand the cross-border transfers of XRP, a cryptocurrency the company is closely associated with among its customers, which are banks and financial institutions. So there you have it, cross-border payments utilizing XRP. That's how me and you get rich in the end. And you know, it's just one more corridor. Like I said, all that groundwork is getting put in place right now. Come on board. Amazon collaborating in pilot program for new CBDC proposed by IMF and central banks, XRP, the global bridge currency. Now, they don't talk about Ripple or XRP directly in this article, but they talk about the Monetary Authority of Singapore. They have published a white paper that proposes conditions for the use of the central bank digital currencies, tokenized bank deposits, and stable coins. The white paper was produced in collaboration with the IMF, Banca d'Italia, and Bank of Korea, and is currently paired with the pilot program that Amazon and several other corporate giants are participating in. So there you see the ties with Ripple. Could we be about to see over 100 banks to release $32 trillion in liquidity? Told you in 2021 at the conference, that is what's being held. Wonder how much is in there now. So while the IMF continues to work on developing a unique platform for digital central bank currencies, CBDCs, the XRP Army recently uncovered an IMF report from March of 2023 where Ripple was considered a potential problem solver, a testimony of the long-existing connection between IMF and Ripple Labs. And we know the IMF absolutely loves Ripple, so whenever they're talking about CBDCs, they're most likely talking about utilizing RippleNet and XRP in the future at the same time. Breaking, Gary Gensler's BS is being called out by Congress in today's hearing. You gotta hear this.
This hearing is entitled Oversight of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days with which to submit extraneous materials to the chair for inclusion into the official record. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes to give an opening statement. Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution vests, quote, all legislative powers, close quote, in Congress. However, even after the landmark decision in West Virginia versus EPA, some agencies continue to act well outside the bounds Congress instructed them to follow. Inherent in those constitutional powers is the power to conduct oversight. The Supreme Court has held and reaffirmed that Congress has the power to conduct oversight to, quote, secure needed information, close quote, in order to legislate. Let me remind everyone paying attention this morning, our subcommittee should and will continue to conduct oversight where needed. And with all due respect to Ms. Barbero, it's not up to the General Counsel's office or Chair Gensler to decide what those investigations are. Ms. Barbero, ultimately, the buck stops with you, and we have the chair as well. And as Chief Legal Officer, it is your job to make sure the SEC complies with our requests. Given your extensive experience sitting on this side of the dais, I know, frankly, or suspect that you would never have allowed an agency to stonewall Congress or you or your bosses the way that it appears it's been done for the last 6 months. But let's not for a second pretend that this unresponsiveness has always been the case for the SEC. Under Chair Gensler, the SEC's unresponsiveness to committee's requests has been extremely slow and limited in comparison to that of previous chairs. Where past chairs have been quick to respond to Congress, in contrast, Chair Gensler, and by extension you, have continued to miss deadlines, offer no accommodations, blame staff shortages, budget deficiencies, and bureaucratic obstacles. When committee staff received documents claiming to be, quote, responsive, as the chair had put a couple of weeks ago, the SEC either failed to acknowledge the questions actually being asked or provided mostly publicly available documents. To put this in perspective, let me provide you with some statistics. For our request in the SEC's climate disclosure rule, 80% of all of the documents that you produced to date are all publicly available. In fact, a portion of those documents were previously provided to FOIA requesters. But wait, it gets worse. In response to the committee's request to better understand the charges against former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, 100% of the documents that you provided are publicly available. And to be sure, the SEC's slow and limited responses to congressional requests isn't for a lack of resources or experience. The SEC oversees 24 national security exchanges, 9 credit rating agencies, 7 registered clearing agencies, and the activities of 29,000 registered agencies, including investment advisors, broker-dealers that collectively employ over 1 million people in the United States. To imply that they cannot respond to Congress in a timely manner is an insult to our institution and frankly embarrassing for yours. It should be noted that during the failure of multiple banks which they oversee and while working to manage the fallout, the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and other regulators have been perfectly capable of providing important documents, testimony, and access to documents. The SEC is an outlier. Under Chair Gensler, the SEC has prioritized rewriting every corner of our capital markets, proposing 46 rules since the start of his tenure, many with far-reaching implications that will upend decades of precedents and have little economic analysis to justify their existence. Under Chair Gensler, the SEC has prioritized regulation by enforcement in the name of protecting investors. Under Chair Gensler, the SEC has completely ignored its mission to promote capital formation, instead opting to create confusion that will ultimately hurt innovation and entrepreneurs who seek access to our markets. At today's hearing, you'll hear countless instances where the chair and his staff have failed to respond to member inquiries, often with complete disregard to the questions being asked. This isn't a unique request that have come from myself or Chairman McHenry. These issues have persisted on both sides of the aisle. Ms. Barbero, this hearing could have and should have been avoided. But what other choice do we have when the SEC, your boss, and you, by extension, continue to be uncooperative and unresponsive? In May, I sent you a letter that indicated, this was to you, that indicated that this committee was prepared to take the necessary steps to get the information we have sought as part of our constitutional right, our obligation, I would say, to provide oversight of the executive branch. Rest assured that if these obstructions continue, we'll be seeing many more of your colleagues before our subcommittee in the future. So I look forward to hearing your testimony today. I hope that
It looks like Congress is totally tired of Gary Gensler. You know, this guy does whatever the hell he wants to do, and I think they're sick and tired of seeing it happen. And I think it's time that we finally fire Gary Gensler. And, you know, it's not just him. It's the people controlling him, like Maxine Waters. Take a listen to this. She literally says that if the SEC Gov doesn't like the request of her Republican colleagues in her oversight committee, the SEC should just ignore them.
And if you expect it to turn them around in a short period of time or to disregard your mandate and your responsibility, you have to resist that. And so, on behalf of those on this side of the aisle who appreciate the enormity and the complications that you're dealing with, continue to do what you're doing. You're on the right track. Again, I can't say enough. You're our cop on the block. And what we need to do is make sure that you have more resources to work with. Members on the opposite side of the aisle have insisted on starving you to death and not giving you the resources that you're needed. You need more resources, you need more personnel, but you keep doing what you're doing. There's some of us who are very appreciative for your work, and we're going to always support you in every way that we can. And I yield back the balance of my time.
You know, that's what we need. We need both sides of the aisle to come together around crypto, but that's never going to happen because on one side of the aisle, you have a whole bunch of politicians that are looking out for the big banks and looking out for their own pockets. On the other side of the aisle, you have pro-American, pro-crypto politicians that want to see innovation strive and grow in this country, yet they're held back every single step of the way. And hopefully in this next election, this all changes. And I cannot wait until the 2024 elections because I think we're going to hear more talk of crypto on the mainstream media news than we ever have before. And I think it's going to be a great time going forward. So former Ripple advisor Michael Barr will supervise the Federal Reserve. And there you see him meeting with Christine Lagarde. Isn't that ironic also? I honestly don't think all of this is happening right now by coincidence. There's no way. Even the Fed talking about the Grateful Dead. So then there's this. James Rickards thinks BRICS will back their currency with gold come August, delivering the biggest monetary shock in 52 years. And a lot of people have not been talking about this recently, but August is when the BRICS goes into that second phase of Operation Sandman. So what he's saying here is the only objective metric for dollar strength is the dollar price of gold by weight, since gold is not a central bank currency. This resolves any valuation conundrum as follows. Dollar strength can only properly be measured in gold. Gold is money, but it is also a commodity. BRICS are dollar poor but commodity rich. A new BRICS currency will be linked to gold, and that's what makes sense. And you know, I think August is going to be the beginning. I think that's when we're going to start to see the US dollar start to fall in value shortly after that meeting, because that's when all those countries are going to come together. And I think China is going to send back our debt. But we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But if the US dollar was to lose value, crypto will definitely rise. But with that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.